Hello, everyone, and welcome to the session which we'll be talking about the business case for gender intelligent fintechs. With us today, we have some of the best industry elites talking about this topic, and I want to thank the Alliance for hosting us as part of the breakout sessions. My name is Mushir Ahmed. I'm the founder and managing director of FinStep Asia. I'm also co-founder of the FinTech Association of Hong Kong. I'm one of the two main authors where we did the research for the Alliance, along with the Alliance, for how women are being catered to by fintechs and how there is this large opportunity that exists in the market. Now, as you would be very aware of the facts that exist, right? We have in the research, we've showcased that of the fintechs who had access to gender disaggregated cost of acquisition, 95% of them said that cost of acquisition for women was similar or lower to men. Right? That's only 5% who said CAC is higher. Now, this is a misconception that largely exists that women acquisition costs are higher, but this has been debunked by our survey, which covered 168 fintechs from across the world. We also found that fintechs that calculated gender disaggregated lifetime value LTV, a majority said that LTV is either similar or higher for women customers. That's almost 86%, where 43% said that LTV for women is higher. Now we know that women are more loyal, better repayment rates, and also they refer more customers, which were given as the most important reasons for higher women's LTV. In addition to that, you would probably also know fast facts on the women's economy. $1.7 trillion of unmet demand for credit among female-owned micro entrepreneurs. That's an opportunity that's being missed. Consumption, 89% of women globally take charge of day-to-day purchasing, with 43 trillion US dollars amount of global consumer spending is controlled by women, right? In an addition way, wealth, 40% of global wealth is held by women, with over $30 trillion in assets expected to shift from baby boomers to young women by 2030 in the United States alone, right? Women income is $24 trillion globally, and this is also expected to increase over the next 10 years. All in all, we have a strong opportunity here for fintechs to leverage off and to capitalize of the women's market. And with us today, we have four people who will be diving into this topic and talking about what their firms are doing and their experience in this field. We have from Hive Online, we have Ms. Sophie Blackstead. We have Rachel Freeman, who is Executive Director and Chief Growth Officer of Time, which is South African digital bank. Arvind Grewal, Chief Marketing Officer of Wave Money from Myanmar. And Nadia Benaisaf, Marketing Director of BPC Payments Europe, right? Now, Hive Online has been working with digital solutions to community saving groups and works with MFIs, while Time has a different model of high touch through kiosk banking, through grocery stores in South Africa, and has been a good model for attracting women customers. While Wave Money, we have a high proportion of women agents in Myanmar, and BPC works with institutions that focus on women-owned businesses. You have also launched your own CSR initiative, right? So I would like all of you to give us a little insight for the audience about your customer base and the gender split. Why don't we start with Rachel? Rachel, how's Time been doing? What's your customer base and gender split?
Thank you, Mashir, and congratulations on the report. So Time, we design, build, and operate digital banks, and Time Bank in South Africa is our largest deployment. We have 2.3 million customers since we launched in February 2019. Right now, we have 51% women, but in the last couple of months, women have been 60% of customers onboarded. Primarily, we think because of our kiosks that you mentioned in the grocery stores, and our ambassadors that are next to the kiosk and do financial literacy training. 70% of our ambassadors are women, which we think has a big impact on our women onboarding. And actually women have repaid the favor to us. Recently, we got our first Net Promoter Score, and we got a score of 69 from low-income women, which is actually higher than Amazon in the US. So we're quite proud of that.
Thank you, Rachel. Nadia, moving to you. BPC also has an agri-tech marketplace. And as we mentioned earlier, we've been focusing on women-owned businesses as well. Could you give us a little more information about that and the breakdown, please?
Yes, correct. So earlier in December, we have launched an agri-tech marketplace, so dedicated to farmers in India, with the objective to deploy, similar projects in other countries. So we are at pilot since December, and the results have been quite impressive. So we have onboarded since December 120,000 farmers, of whom 12,000 are female. So we are working towards, improving the way they run their business, but also give them access to finance, but not only, going beyond and helping them, foster the growth of their activities.
Thank you, Nadia. Arvinder, you guys are one of the largest technology firms in Myanmar, especially on the fintech side, and you have a very strong women consumer base as well as agents. Could you give us a little more insights on that, please?
Yeah, sure, Michelle. So, again, when we come from Myanmar, and I think for us also, if you look at, we are actually very passionate about the gender gap, which is obviously there in terms of the people who are included in the channel and as well as the customer. So if you look at currently, we stand at 40% of all our agents are women and who are managing their stores. And this is where we are working upon to take them up to 80%. And that's why there are a lot of activities which we are working around in the market. Similarly, when you look at the customer base also, we have close to 37% women who are our customer base of the wallet. And the best thing which we have seen, even during the COVID, is that we are seeing a much higher percentage of uptake from women during the COVID, which is in terms of actually using the wallet and registering. Downloads could happen across on digital platforms, but the higher percentage of women coming and registering and using an app is one of the best things which we have seen during the COVID, and which is a very significant thing for anywhere in the market in Asian countries also.
I think the ASEAN market, of course, is something that is growing quite a lot in terms of digital wallets, etc. And this, in Myanmar being one of the larger countries there, is quite interesting. Moving to Sophie. Sophie, Hive Online has been doing tremendous work, and you have a lot of women customers as well. Would you like to talk a little bit about your customer base and the gender split, please?
Yes, certainly. And our experience is it varies from country to country. Now, we focus on communities. So our savings group communities are a much higher gender split. We tend to have, in Niger, for example, they're 95% women. And this is from a membership of 800,000 savings group members in Niger, which makes it higher than any bank's customer population, which is quite nice. And then in Mozambique, we're working with communities of farmers, so we tend to have more men in those groups. But the people who most need access to credit, even within those groups, which are majority men, most of the people in the saving circles are women. So what we see across the board is that the people who have the least access to credit and the most need for our digital reputation, which enables them to access credit through measuring informal commercial activities and their financial activity, are definitely majority women, and in some countries, more than 90% women. And we see this as a huge market opportunity, as well as obviously a huge opportunity to impact these women, because of some of the things you said. I mean, they have a very low default rate because the groups have a very high social bonds, and they also are very productive and very industrious, because each of these women is responsible for between 5 and 15 people. So effectively, they are the community, and they give back to the community as well. And what we see is when male entrepreneurs get more successful, they may move out of rural areas, but women tend to stay put.
I think that's a theme that's also been repeated across, when even in Wave Money, when Arvinder has also spoken about how that can be potentially something that goes, like the giving back to the community and building. That's just when you're building a woman customer, it actually helps grow the community, and it actually is a lot more that's given back overall. And we will talk more about that with Arvinder, but starting off with to the next question, right? Rachel, Time has some very interesting metrics that you spoke about, the very high NPS score. Congratulations on equally and beating Amazon, right? But you having KPIs and metrics is very important, not just for the business, but also for investors. So it's quite interesting that you're following these. So we'd like to know a little bit more about how you've achieved your high NPS score and what KPIs would you say should be combined to build the business case for serving the women's market? You also have had a great track record with CGAP and IFC previously looking at this space. So would love your insights on this.
All right, well, thank you. And thank you for the congratulations on the NPS score. So time, I mean, we really believe that what gets measured gets done. So we from day one are measuring a number of different indicators, whether it's gender in South Africa, it's race, it's location, it's age. We look at all the demographics, and that information and data is shared across all Time staff every single day. So we know actually every single day how many accounts have been opened and how many women, and that's how we start to track. Now, at Time, we have recognized that there's about a 3 to 6 month lag between men and women. So when we initially launched the bank, more men onboarded, and particularly more men onboarded on the web compared to the kiosk. But we noticed that with those two aspects, as with all products that we've had, that there's this 3 to 6 month lag. So one of the things that we're doing is trying to figure out why is there the lag, what we can do about it, and we do know that it revolves around trust. Now, we also feel very strongly that it's important not to build products specifically for women. What we look at is, and we spend a lot of time on the customer experience and thinking, how does this fit for everyone? And how does it fit for women? And if it fits for women, we believe it will fit for everyone. That's why, and this comes from not just my experience at Time, but at IFC, we feel very strongly that you should not be launching a women-only bank or women-only products, and God forbid, not pink credit cards and things like that we've seen before. So what we try to do is think, what is the need out there? And one of the things that was quite important to us was not to launch digitally savvy products. We don't think you need to be digitally savvy to work with a digital bank. We try to meet the customer where they are and then help them on that digital journey. And that's why the kiosk has been so important.
So how is that, if I may just interlude, how has that been important with the women in terms of your measurability of the business case? The last part, especially about not being so digitally savvy, while a lot of fintechs are craving or pushing towards being digitally savvy, right?
Right. So what happens is with Time, you can go to the grocery store, the local grocery store. We have kiosks in the grocery store. You walk in the grocery store, it takes about 5 minutes or under 5 minutes to open an account. You get your own personalized Visa debit card. You can take the debit card and start using it immediately by cash in, cash out at the cash register. It's very simple. Everything is quite simple about this. So we've taken out paper. We don't believe people like filling out forms. We don't believe people like paper, but we believe people like people. So that's why we have the ambassador that then explains how to download the account, how to use this, how to do different things. We think the combination of the really easy way to open the account, the fact that it's affiliated into the cash register, and then the ambassador that shows you how to use it makes it all very, very positive. So the other piece that has been attractive to women is that two of our cheapest products are Send Money, which is free, and then card-based deposits, so depositing at the cash register. Those are our most value-oriented products, and those are the ones that women use much higher. As comparison to using ATMs, where we don't have our ATM, so you have to use another ATM, it's quite costly. That's where men use the account. So we believe that women not only are using our account in new ways, but they actually use it in smarter ways.
Okay, thank you. Moving on to Sophie and Arvinder, right? You both have tremendous platforms that are having a deep reach and having a lot of women customers and women users. Arvinder, you're looking to push that up to 80%. So I'll start with you on this. Is that what are the metrics that you use to calculate customer profitability? Is it the traditional lifetime value is to CAC ratios where people look for 3:1, right, as an ideal ratio or upwards of that? Or are you able to know and track the gender of your customer quite actively, while like Rachel was mentioning that Time do? And specifically, if we look at LTV, how do you estimate it and over what time frame?
Yeah, so Mushir, well, I would like to start because this is a very critical area for us, because it is not only about social inclusion, as you were talking about, it is also about making a business sense.
Correct.
So, so when we started with because when we look at women, there are multiple markets in one. And then when I mean by multiple markets in one is they consume for themselves as well as for the households. It's much different from a men in that fold. And I would not quote any other than the Harvard Business Review only, which says that women control almost 80% of global discretionary spending, and market worth is like almost USD 20 trillion globally. And when you look at those numbers, they are bigger than the economies of India and China combined. But yet people see gender as a limitation, but not as an opportunity. So we took that as one of the learning lessons for us and as a stepping stone. And that's why what we thought that, whether we are looking at agents, whether we are looking at the customers, we had to put women as first, but not only as part of financial inclusion. That's for sure, it is to be done. But when we know that, we have to close the gap, but we also need to see who are the early adopters. And we looked at them and then we saw, okay, the woman generally is an early adopter and also an influencer. So looking at these things and these kind of as researchers, what we did very well on the agent, on the woman side, which subsequently helped us on getting a woman customer also. So when you're talking about like CACs and all those things, so I would say on Wave being a digital company, and especially with the onslaught of the COVID, we have seen almost 30% month-on-month growth in transactions. So I'm not talking about year or 2 years. I'm talking about month-on-month growth on digital has been more than 30% for us. And hence, it becomes very critical for us to measure the digital metrics also. So when I talk about digital metrics, I talk about the things like CPA. I talk about the things like cost per activation or cost per mile or cost per installs and those kind of things. And before I give you those matrices about Myanmar and Wave Money specifically for us, I would also like to talk about the country with the 53 million base, out of which 21 million Facebook users. It's a big numbers. And 40% of our followers on Facebook are women. And that's a strong statement, I would say, when if we look at in 2014, when 2% of the women in the country had mobile phones. And similarly on that, we see almost 60% new likes on Facebooks and digital platforms, which shows the growing popularity of wallets among women and a more uptake. Now, when we talk about download to registrations, which is a very significant action item for us when we look at the business proposition, it's almost twice than men. What does it mean? It means they are serious about the businesses. So when I look at my cost per installs, or when I look at cost per acquisitions, simply it doubles and the cost reduces. So it's a very significant action item for any marketer when you go out for acquisition. So like, for example, my cost per install for a normal customer would be maybe 2 cent or 20 cent. But when it comes to a woman, it similarly goes down to 10 cent because it's more registration rather than only downloads. So similarly, our cost per acquisition also has come down almost to 1 USD, which is a very, very significant number in terms of when you're going in a mass market and trying to achieve much more. Similarly, I would give you two more very important matrices. One is the referrals. So what we have seen, a woman referral translating into registration is almost 40 to 50%. And it's a very clear business sense. Why should I invest into my acquisition funnel and where and how. These are the key metrics which tells us, for acquisition, what are my key bets and where I should put in my money. Similarly, when I look at my engagement part, because which also becomes a significant cost for any company, we see that the women, when they do a cash in at any of those agents or any of the digital places, they have 30% more ticket size compared to men. And when I mean by ticket sizes, which means they will be using the wallet multiple times, which means the engagement would be very high. So, there is no brainer behind that the acquisition and an engagement, which gives us as a early adopters and an influencer to look at women as a strong business acumen for anyone in the market. And I'm talking purely based on a business sense, not on financial inclusions right now. It is challenge in every country, but the returns would be much higher when we looked at the matrices.
I think that's the key, right? Not just financial inclusion; it's the business case as well, right? That's what we want to talk about. Financial inclusion is a side impact of what's happening, and but if you make the right business case, it can have a dual impact on not just financial inclusion but economic growth. Sophie, you were talking also about how you have seen that community grow and the impact, right? But how are you measuring from a profitability versus a cost metric perspective?
So we have a lot of data about our customers because that's what the reputation is built on. So we capture a lot of separate metrics. So we have an identity proxy. We have obviously the measure of their wealth and their transactions as well as their commercial activities. And one of our observations is that it's not just about financial inclusion, it's about more prosperous communities and more prosperous businesses. And the more prosperous businesses buy more stuff off us. And it's really that simple. So we don't just look at the cost of customer acquisition, we also look at how many services that customer will buy. I'm echoing very much what Arvinder was saying. So a very poor farmer will take out a loan to spray their crops, their harvest will increase. And as a result, they will then buy insurance the next year. And then they'll buy a pension. And then they'll buy car insurance. So the business case from our perspective is actually the wealthier we make our communities, the wealthier we get. And it's really quite simple. Our customer acquisition cost is relatively low because we work with partners who distribute on the ground. But the lifetime value we don't know yet, because we don't know how long people are going to be on the platform for because we're that young. But we're looking at significant customer loyalty because every time they use the platform, they build their reputation. So it's pretty sticky.
I think there's one other element to that, right? Which is when women come on board, they're also likely to refer more customers to the platform than men do, right? That must be one of the things where the communities are important as the network effort that women have in bringing on. And once the trust is established, as Rachel was saying, it takes 3 to 6 months lag, then you can always jump back in, right? Moving on to our last question before we jump into the audience. Nadia, what for you, in your experience, having worked across Europe as well as now with BPC, what for you is some of the key challenges to keep in mind for targeting women customers?
For us, coming, I would say, from the fintech and building, digital platforms, which are high tech, we have realized, of course, that there's a reality check and you need that phygital, I would say, link to reach out to the customers. So in rural areas, not everyone is equipped with a phone. So I think the biggest challenges were on onboarding. How do you onboard, people in remote area, include them into the system? So we had to deploy a network not only of agents, physical agents, but also ambassadors that could, advise. And in the case of female, it had to be female to talk to female as well. So keeping, the cultural aspect in some countries, and we find that the husband is very often, coming into the discussions in any case. But the onboarding was quite interesting. So to bring them to that digital marketplace, you had to have those relay to support and to put their products online. Also for the access to finance, and this is where I follow Sophie. The business case is really not to. It's very difficult to score, someone who doesn't have, recurring revenues. So we took the problem upside down, and we ensure that we foster their business growth. So we match buyers with farmers in the case of our marketplace, so that they get revenues, and we give a new scoring model to the financial institutions that have joined us, like ICICI Bank or FinoBank, into this program, so that they can, use different scoring models to be able to enable, access to finance. And the other way around as well, to ensure that we get stable revenue, is that we ensure that we probably give loans or fund the retailers or the merchants that are buying the produce of the farmers, so that we ensure that the farmers can sell their products, can get their salary on time, and can participate in the economy. And there's a very important, I would say, figure that I want to mention, is that when we buy products in the supermarket, from $1 spent, there's only less than 10% that goes to the farmer. So we try to increase the value, so that we enrich them at the same time through technology. We know that all of them use a phone, so we managed to have those relay to put the products into the platform, and a lot of education to help them better run their business, better prepare the next season as well, which is very essential to them.
Sophie, I'm going to just come back to you quickly on this as well, right? So what are the challenges you're facing when catering to the women's market? What should we keep in mind when you're targeting women's customers?
Yes, I mean, absolutely echo what Nadia just said. I mean, especially in the communities we're working with, which tend to be very poor communities. There's very low literacy rates, very low technical literacy, as well as very low ownership of devices. So what we've actually done is we've created a system which works on a single device per community. Now, obviously, the women can all have devices, and that works too. But we've made it so that everyone can have a wallet, even if they don't have a device. And for us, that was one of the very core things about all the communities we support, because even in the male population in the farming communities, we see that it's around 50% ownership of any kind of device. So our community platform is very much about the community, but everyone has their own wallet as well. So onboarding, yeah, I mean, literacy is a barrier. We found that technical literacy is one of the big challenges. Some of the women have, even the secretaries in the groups, have never used a phone before. So we found that the onboarding the app was less of a challenge than onboarding a phone in some cases. The younger women tend to be much more technically aware and much more keen. But what we do find is that they're very fast learners. And if we're talking to some of the men from these communities, they say, I want my women to be more educated so they can look after the animals. And the women say, we want to engage with your society. We want to sell to you. We want to be part of your communication network. They think globally. And that's just really refreshing.
That's quite true, right? That's education is not just for increasing small steps, but it's actually for a greater cause in building out the community. Arvinder, what would you say are some of the challenges businesses face or have to keep in mind when targeting women customers?
I actually practically agree with what Nadia and Sophie said, because when we have such a strong women who are in the market and capturing everything, is almost similar across markets. And it's same for us in Myanmar. Like in 2016-17, there were less than 7% women who were between age and 34 and who had any kind of bank account. That gives a kind of market where we were working, obviously, which means the reach was a problem. We had to, because Myanmar again is within Asia, one of the biggest geographical countries, and so we have to reach there, and we did that with almost 66,000 agents, and out of which 25,000 agents are being managed by women, which caters to early adopters. Second thing I would say is, even my team, like the local team members, the local women team members and the team leaders in the company were the critical factors who took us into a next stage of removing hindrance. So I'm very proud of my team, especially the women team members in my team who are working like what Nadia and Sophie is doing, going into rural market and developing them. Because the other things like, understanding of financial services, or you talk about whether there is a trust, whether there is other financial literacy, this will always remain a challenge. And one significant part apart from that is KYC. And I think KYC in Myanmar is definitely a much bigger challenge for us, because first of all, 30% of the population lack proper identity cards, and the remaining 70% would have paper-based cards, which could go back to 15 years, 20 years backdated. So this, what does this do is this is critical factor for excluding people from the formal financial system. And apart from this, I would definitely say, during COVID, there have been multiple challenges like the social scammers and all, which have started uprooting all across the world. And I think this is everywhere. And that's why we have to put a lot of efforts and capacity to service and improve our things. Yeah.
Yeah, Rachel, last one before we go to the Q&A. What are, from your perspective, what are the key challenges that fintechs need to keep in mind while targeting women customers?
I'd say the most important is trust, that earning the women's trust is critical. And as a new brand in South Africa, we knew that we had to build and work with others to get that trust. So we partnered with some of the most trustworthy institutions in South Africa, which are the grocery stores.
I think participants speaking. May I ask if you mute themselves?
All right, so if we go back to...
Ayala, I can't mute you. Can you mute yourself, please?
We are in the world of Zoom, aren't we?
All right, so I mean, I'll just talk over this person, that we have, the trust is the key issue. So we partnered with Pick n Pay and Boxer, which are very trusted brands in South Africa, initially with the grocery stores to earn that trust. And then more recently, we have partnered with ZCC, which is the largest church group in the country. And the membership card for the church group is going to be a Time Bank card. So we're working through partnerships that's been most important. Actually, we also, I'm looking at a question that's come out about other markets, and we have been talking actually about rolling out our kiosk in Myanmar, and we've been solving this KYC issue. So with Arvinder, I know how difficult it is, but actually you can solve it through our kiosks. We have the kiosks in Indonesia, New Zealand, Egypt, and we're now actively looking at moving with the kiosks into Myanmar. We're also going to be setting up digital banks in the Philippines and Malaysia. And so for the fintechs who are listening into this call, we're looking for partners. So if you're interested in working with us, then please get in touch with me over the next couple of days. But we believe that our model is perfect for emerging markets, where you need to walk the walk with digital savvy, not just assume digital savvy, but take the people on a digital journey. And that cash management is critical. People cannot engage with a digital bank if they don't think they can get the money into cash, when 90% of most transactions are in cash. So the ability to move in and out of cash is one of the critical things that we did to earn trust and comfort. And we believe that that will work in any emerging market.
That's perfect. That also answered the first question we had on Slido about where Time was looking at which other markets. So we can move on to the next question. This is specifically to Arvinder and Nadia in terms of giving some experience or some examples rather on marketing best practices from your experience for targeting women customers. I also come to you, Sophie, because there's obviously a market you guys also looking at, but this was asked to, but we'll start with Nadia maybe. What have you seen as some of the best marketing examples?
Yeah, for us, I would say there are two ways. So there is one which is digital and Facebook. We could not be in Facebook, especially when India has, the largest membership in the world. So Facebook has been very important to us, and the farmers get in there and just put their phone number. I want to join, please contact me, and we contact them and we onboard them. And the other way for us was really our network of partners, relying on their network, their branches, their kiosk, and putting some posters out there, educating, really a very simple approach, but this was very necessary, especially when you reach out to people in rural area. So the fact that we could rely on, some of the financial institutions, NGOs, existing networks was very important, and is still important for us to continue to grow the customer base.
I'm just going to add very quickly to that, because I think this is an important element for all the four of you, is vernacular, right? How much you can adapt to the local language. Quite a few times when fintechs are moving internationally, you go in with one language or two languages. But this is a classic case in India, for example. Now they would have dealt with multiple, it's 24 official languages we have at least to deal with. And you have a similar case in, across Africa and in Myanmar as well. The script is very different. So, but Arvinda, what are some of the best marketing best practices that Wave has been using to target? How are you getting from that 40% to 80%? How are you reaching that?
Sure. For us, it's been again a three-tier approach, which is digital, which is the reach, which we have, also to build up upon our strength, the biggest strength, which is our network of 66 agents across the 90% of the Myanmar. And the third one is partnerships. So I would say when we look at digital, last quarter we have run a campaign like Live Your Life Your Way. And then we have spent more than $1 million USD on a campaign which is led by a woman role model, which is a punk band, a completely never heard concept in Myanmar. And I would urge, if you have time, to go on Wave Money Facebook page, and you'll see that what we are trying to do. It's a bold concept we have tried. It's targeting the youngster, especially the young woman, to live your life your way, so that you are different and you need to achieve what others could not achieve. And this has been one of the biggest success for us in last quarter, I would say. And second, I would say as per the reach I was talking about, because that's our strength, to reach everyone. As Rachel was saying, unless you reach a doorstep of a person, you cannot include that person in financial inclusion. And that's how fintechs like us are different from the traditional banks or others. So what we can do in that case is, like, for example, the non-government and the NGOs. During the COVID period, we started a very simple concept saying that we will charge 0 fees whenever you're doing any kind of disbursements for any needy across Myanmar. And then, we did almost 5 million USD disbursements in the first half of 2020, and charging 0 cost to everyone, but at the same time ensuring that every agent is being compensated for that. What does that mean? That means the communities are being built up, and it's helping us, our business also, because we are getting the people who we could never reach otherwise. Thirdly, as Nadia was talking about partnerships, that's very important across, I think, and we have looked to seek out partnership across the development community also. And like one of the biggest example was, we launched a product which is called Sweto app, which is generally a very simple app, which was for financial education app for women. And we did in partnership with UNCDF and Australian Department of Foreign Affairs and Trade. And, that helped us to get almost 0.3 million women to get into that kind of financial inclusion. Also, we are committed in partnerships with GSMA to get involved in the Connected Women programs and all. So these are some of the critical marketing things on all the fronts which are helping us and which are unique, I could say.
Thank you, Arvinda. Sophie, anything to add on top as a last word before we go into our final say?
A very similar picture, and I would echo everything that Nadia said. We also partner with NGOs and with commercial organisations and with peripheral government organisations. So, for example, we're working with organisations promoting cooperatives with our cooperatives product, as you would expect. One thing I would add, and I think this has been touched upon, that do not underestimate the power of non-digital advertising in these communities. The painted sign, the poster, these are very, very powerful tools in these markets. And in terms of language, yeah, I mean, we obviously delivered the product or developed the product so that we can just plug a language in. And so every time we go to a new region, as long as it's a written language, we can plug it in.
Great. So we have exactly 30 seconds left. So I will ask each of you to wave your magic wand and tell us, if you could wish for something to rally the ecosystem to focus on the female economy, what would it be? 5 seconds each, starting off with you, Rachel.
All right, well, we cannot fully break bias against women and break through into the ecosystem until we have women fintech founders. We have women senior management, and not just one, but two in fintechs, women board members, and women leaders in the venture capital area, and not just one in each company, but 2 or 3 in senior management. It will take that to make things change.
Got it. Arvinder, your 5 seconds.
Okay, I would say empower the woman financially to see how they immeasurably leverage the lives of people around them. And one last thing, women belong in all places where decisions are being made.
Perfect. Nadia?
Yeah, I would say it's beyond, taking into consideration the host of opportunities that the female economy can bring, but it's also a wish that, organization would finally invest instead of finding solution in putting devices in the hands of, the people, putting the mobile phone at the cost of the mobile phone going down, but the adoption of, digital going so fast. When we will see an organization give a mobile phone with the application, with voice capability in the hands of the people. That's my dream.
It may be coming soon, coming through soon with Jio, the $50 smartphone in India. Sophie?
Yeah, I would say very simply, the distributed economy should be female. It's all about the communities.
Right. Thank you, all 4 of you, for very deep insights and wonderful stories about what each of you have been achieving. We've brought you together to showcase to everybody else about serving the women's market is not about just financial inclusion. It's about profitability. It's about an opportunity that has largely been left on the table, not just by financial institutions, but also by fintechs who are supposed to be data-driven. So here is a showcase of 4 companies who have done it well, are profiting from it, and hopefully will be the flag bearers for all other fintechs to follow. So I would once again thank the Alliance and their members for giving us this opportunity to showcase about the business case for gender intelligent fintechs. And we look forward to staying in touch with all of you. Please read the report and give us feedback on what you found interesting and what you'd like to add for the next edition. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you. Thank you all.